Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup. It is the start of a new season in just 2 days. It's time to do our Stage 1 Week 1 preview of the fixtures ahead. Now, before that we have some housekeeping to do. First of all, I want to say, what the heck is Doa doing? Predicting that the final four in the overall playoffs will be Florida Mayhem, Guangzhou Charge, LA Valiant and NYXL. I mean, Mayhem? Really? If he's right, then I don't know, I'm gonna have to owe an apology or something. Jesus Christ, that's the weirdest predictions I've seen this year. Okay. Just to go over that, there are a lot of predictions from all the casters and the Overwatch League talent on the Overwatch League website. I've seen quite a few people predicting that NYXL won't get to the final four in playoffs, and it'll be Vancouver instead. And a lot of people predicting San Francisco Shurk will go quite far. A lot of people were saying that Hangzhou will go quite far. I've also now learned that it's Hangzhou and Guangzhou, not Zhao. Not Guangzhou and Hangzhou. If I do keep getting it wrong, then I apologise, and please do keep correcting me so I can try and sort it out. I'm seeing a lot of Hangzhou, London, NYXL and Shock predictions. And then some swapping Shock for Philly. I can kind of see that. A lot of people not putting Vancouver in there. And then if they are putting Vancouver in there, normally they're putting Vancouver in there instead of NYXL. Which is interesting. Very interesting. And then you got Puckett, who's gone full Korean and has decided to put London, NYXL, Seoul and Vancouver at its final four. I don't know. We'll have to see. Anything can happen, as we knew with Philadelphia last season. So, that's the first bit of housekeeping. Second bit of housekeeping is the structure of this series. So, we have done our previews for the teams, we've done our power rankings, we've done pretty much everything that needs to be done before a season. Working through the season, it's going to start off like this. I'm going to start it a bit differently than what it was last season. Last season it was one video a week where we did the fixtures and we did the results. This year I want to change it slightly. So stage 1, I'm going to trial it and I'll keep on with it if it goes well. If it doesn't, I might revert back to the old way of doing it. There'll be 2 videos a week. One will be a preview video of the week's fixtures ahead, and one will be a results video of what's happened in the previous week. The other way around though. So the results video will come out, and then a day later or something, the preview video for the fixtures ahead will come out after that. I kind of want to divide it up into 2 videos for 2 reasons. There are a lot more teams in the league this year, is one of them. So if I do them both in one video, it's going to make it quite long. And 2, basically, I want to make it easier for your consumption as a viewer. And if the videos are shorter, then that's better for the viewer. So that's kind of where we're going with that. But that's enough of the housekeeping. It's time to take a look at our first week's fixtures. If you did not know already, they take place over 3 to 4 days now, starting on Friday the 15th because they start at midnight. God damn it. Covering Saturday, Sunday, and edging slightly into Monday. In other time zones, they may start on Thursday. So, I'm going to give you what will be on screen will be the times in Greenwich Mean Time, and I do this bit of housekeeping every season. If you want European Central Time, you are to add 1 hour onto those times. So, for the first game, it would be going off at 1 AM in Europe, not midnight. Any other time zones, just convert the numbers from GMT to whatever your time zone is. Because I can't do all the time zones in one video, because that would be a video in of itself that would be about an hour long for each match. So, yeah. These on the screen are in GMT. That's what I'm going to say, and I will read them out also probably in European times as well. So, starting on Friday, February the 15th, we kick off the Overwatch League with quite a few tasty fixtures. Midnight on Friday the 15th. we have the Philadelphia Fusion, your runners-up from last year, taking on last year's champions and reigning champions, London Spitfire. That's an interesting game to start the league off with. Again, that'll be at 1 AM in Europe, Central European time. I did do a lot of predicting results last year. I'm going to go for London, edging it. I don't know though. A lot of people aren't backing Philly Fusion too much, I've seen, and that's kind of interesting to me, but I think London might edge that slightly, although one issue with London is I think they might struggle with goats, and currently the meta is still goats. It is morphing, we're seeing more DPS now, but it is still quite heavily goats. So London might struggle with that, but I think London will edge it. Next up, at 1:30 AM GMT or 2:30 AM in Europe, we have the New York Excelsior taking on the Boston Uprising. In stage 3 of last season, this would have been quite a blockbuster match. Now, I don't see anyone but Excelsior winning this. I really don't think Boston are up to giving New York a challenge here, especially with goats. Goats is a weird one. It could work against Excelsior in stage 1, simply because I don't think it settles well with the DPS of New York to be playing Brigitte and extra tanks such as Zarya and Diva. So if there's any time to beat Excelsior, I would say early on in stage 1 would be your chance. But considering this week they're going to play Washington and flipping Boston, I would expect that to be a win, even though Excelsior are going to play goats most likely, or maybe they've come out with crazy 4 DPS meta that we haven't seen yet. Again, we've had scrims this week. I think we all know how that went. They didn't want to disclose any of their strats. I don't understand why the Overwatch League didn't really think they might not want to disclose any strats before the actual league season starts. So we saw things like JNATHYN on Reinhardt and Cruz on Reinhardt and things like that. Yeah. Very memey. Very memey. We had a few Torbjorn hammers out. Okay. So I would expect Excelsior to win that one. After that, at 3 AM GMT, 4 AM Central European, we have Seoul Dynasty taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now this will be much more interesting. This is a big test of these two teams. How different the Gladiators are since last season with their new tank lineup. The return of Fischer against his old club, but not old. His old club is London. His old club is Gladiators. His new club is Seoul. I say club, it's team. I can't predict the winner for that. That's really difficult. Because both teams need a bit of synergy, a bit of a run going, because they both made quite substantial changes. I would go for a Seoul Dynasty win. I think it will be extremely close. It could go either way, that one. Yeah, that's difficult to do. That's difficult to call. At 4:30 AM or 5:30 AM in Europe, if you're going to stay up, I probably will do. I'll be stupid. Shanghai Dragons taking on the Hangzhou Spark. This is interesting. This is a big test for Shanghai. Hangzhou are tipped to be a breakthrough team this season, and tipped to be a playoffs team. Even I tipped them to be a playoffs team, perhaps even competing for the automatic playoffs. They're highly rated, the Hangzhou, so this is a test of Shanghai to see if the changes they've made are actually going to work. There's a lot of bonding to do. I would punt for a Hangzhou win right now. I think Shanghai are going to have a rough first week, but they're going to grow as the season and the stage goes on. They're going to have a rough first week, I think, Shanghai. But keep your fire extinguishers away from Shanghai for a minute. They won't be on fire by the end of this week. If they go 2-0 this week, we're suddenly looking at a team that perhaps might be an automatic playoff place. And I would say that this early on in the season. Yeah, I think I would go for Hangzhou for that one. On Saturday, February the 16th at midnight or 1 AM in Europe, we have the Toronto Defiant taking on the Houston Outlaws. This is a difficult one to call. I would go for Toronto, I think. Toronto, yeah. I think Toronto have a bit more than Houston do. Houston will be a big all or nothing team, much like they were last season. Big in stage 1, flopped in the rest because they didn't have Jake's Junkrat to rely on. Of course, they've got Dante now. They'll be more consistent, I think, Houston, but I don't think they'll quite be as consistent enough to get into the playoffs. But I think Toronto win for that one. I think Toronto might pick that up. At 1:30 a.m. or 2:30 a.m. in Europe, we have Atlanta Reign taking on the Florida Mayhem. I would punt for Atlanta Reign win here, even though Florida are all Korean, I think, apart from Tavik, and Doa thinks they're going to get to the last 4 of the grand finals. I would go for an Atlanta Reign win here. Again, a test of Florida's mettle as well. At 3 a.m. Or 4 a.m. in Europe, we have the return of the Dallas Fuel taking on the much fancied San Francisco Shock. Again, a big test for Dallas. If Dallas win this, then I think we're looking at a very decent Dallas team, because San Fran are one to compete this year, big time. I would personally at the moment go for a San Fran win though, although it could be quite close. And at 4:30 in the morning, or 5:30 in Europe, we have the Chengdu Hunters versus the Guangzhou Charge. I will go for Guangzhou here. I know Guangzhou are going to have perhaps a few communication problems. They looked fairly decent in the scrims, if you can take anything from Mystery Heroes. I think Guangzhou might squeeze that one out. And then we get into some really interesting stuff. So this is obviously later on the Saturday, because of the weird timings, because it's held in America. This is at 8 p.m, so at 9 p.m. in Europe. This is the big European game. We have the London Spitfire taking on the Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal's debut into the league just happens to be against the champions. It's not an easy week for Spitfire, going up against the runners-up of last year and the new up-and-coming European team this year. I would have to go for London, simply because they've got the synergy already built. They know how the league ticks. I think Paris are going to have a rough start and then grow into the league. I would go for London winning that one. But that should be a really, really good game, especially with like Cruz against his home country and all that. That's really interesting. At 9:30 or 10:30 in Europe, we have the Washington Justice against New York Excelsior. New York. I can't see past New York. At 11 p.m. we have, or midnight in Europe, we have the LA Valiant taking on the Hangzhou Spark. This could be quite interesting. We did see a few glimpses of promise from Valiant in the scrims, whatever you can take from those scrims. But I think Hangzhou might just be a bit better. So I will go for a Hangzhou win, which means I'm pipping Hangzhou for a 2-0 start to their league campaign. Interesting, huh? At midnight on Sunday, February the 17th, or 1:30 in the morning, if you're in Europe, we have the debut of the Vancouver Titans, i.e. Runaway, against the Shanghai Dragons. Now, I said it was a rough start for the Shanghai Dragons, and going against the best of Korea, the best of Korea coming into the Overwatch League this season, yeah, it's not a good start. But I think Vancouver need to adjust to the NA setting of their new home. So Vancouver may be vulnerable at this point in time. So maybe we might see an upset. But I would go for Vancouver, because I can't punt against Vancouver here. I just can't. It's Runaway. At 8 p.m. on the Sunday, which is 9 p.m. in Europe, we have the Houston Outlaws taking on the Boston Uprising. Now, this should be fairly close. It depends what sort of Boston we're looking at. Again, I've had many reservations about the Boston Uprising lineup this year. I would go for a Houston win there, but we don't know too much. It should be a fairly good and a fairly close game. At 9:30, again, these times are not set in stone. Depends how many maps you get in a game and stuff like that. At 9:30 GMT or 10:30 in Europe, we have the Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Atlanta Reign. Now this is an interesting one. This is a big test for the Atlanta Reign. Are Atlanta Reign going to be a playoffs team? And I mean 7 to 12 playoffs. If they are, then they need to do decently against Philly Fusion. Maybe not beat them, but they need to do decently against Philly Fusion. And if they beat Philly Fusion, then it depends what the play is like. Because is it Atlanta playing out their minds, or is it Fusion playing badly? If it's Fusion playing badly, then I would start to worry if I'm Fusion. Because if you lose to Atlanta Reign, then I would say you've lost to London. Yeah. I don't think Fusion will lose to Atlanta. I think Fusion should squeeze out a win here. But it should be fairly close and a really good game. Next up, at 11 PM in the UK, or at midnight in Europe, we have the San Francisco Shurk taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators. Again, if we go on what we've seen, this should be a really interesting game. Shurk are, in my opinion, looking a incy-mincy tiny bit better than Gladiators right now, but there isn't really not much between these two teams. I had them competing for the last automatic playoff place. So this will be a big teller of how good these two teams are. Again, remember, we're going to be heavily in goats. Depends who suits that. I think it might suit Shurk a bit more, to be quite honest. I know Sinatra has a bit of quite a tasty Zarya on him, I think. So, yeah, it could be interesting. I would go for a Shurk win. Only just, though. I could see it going the distance. And then the last game of the week will be at midnight on Monday, February the 18th. Technically, basically straight after the San Francisco Shurk Gladiators game. Or 1:30 in the morning if you're in Europe, is the Seoul Dynasty in action against the Dallas Fuel. This is interesting, because this is the old Lunatic High versus Team Envious matchup. Very different to when it was that, though. Again, another big test of Dallas Fuel. Are they much improved from last season? If so, I would expect them to give Seoul a really good run for their money here. I could see this being a banana skin for Seoul as well. So, I don't know. This is a big test for both teams to see where they are at. If Dallas win that, I think Dallas are looking pretty good. Because I think if they can beat Seoul, then they are capable of beating San Fran. Again, this is all very preliminary. We haven't seen any of these teams play properly yet. So, me making predictions now is a bit ridiculous. But I'm just going on what I think. When we get into the stage a few weeks down the line, we'll know what these teams are like then, and we know how they're doing in the meta and that, and then we can make a bit more informed in terms of our predictions. But that is your lineup for this week coming up. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 games across the weekend, which is really, really good. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what these teams produce for us. So, yeah, I think the big losers from the first week probably will be Shanghai. Not because Shanghai are overly bad, I just think they've got a bad luck of the draw in terms of teams they're going to play. Guangzhou and Vancouver, I both see as losses even for the new Shanghai Dragons. But if they're not, then it's very promising for Shanghai. Again, I don't really see Florida doing too much. And, yeah, quite difficult for London. A lot of banana skins for London this week. I'll be back. I'll be back next week in the Overwatch League Roundup to give you the results of this week and my thoughts on it, and then we will go into a fixtures video after that, probably a day after or so, where we look at the fixtures for week 2. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.